I just
You
have
know what
really
happens
strong
when you
opinions, and I will die on any hill.
Welcome to That Eurovision Sites. Today, we are going to be doing something a little different. Our viewers should know, and our podcast listeners should also know, we are a website that loves to have opinions.
Yeah, it does look a bit naff.
Like, why is there a random globe in the middle of
Oh my god, I've actually just seen that 2011 is a stethoscope.
It's a good stage for ballads.
So yeah, we're ranking within the rankings.
One of the most distinctive stages of this era.
The fact that they, like Greece, gave us something that is like one of the most important staging elements that we now have, create their own vibe with it.
The thing is that I don't have any arguments with any of what either of you just said.
I haven't actually ranked these, so I'm going purely vibes based on this, but like going straight into it. I have no notes.
If a stage could be Full Mother, this would be it.
Absolutely. Are we allowed to swear in this?
Yeah, we're allowed to swear.
Okay, that's why I leave being shit at camera work. It's camp as hell. This big black sun that sits at the back of the stage and ruins every performance.
We'll get there.
We're pretty split.
It could tell a good color story. This is what happens when you have a tell about only everything.
I like the pirates.
It's maybe Wynan.
And NRK has historically not had the biggest of budget.
It's not great.
I think I've been talking about airports too much today.
Where are we gonna put this? Where they just
Mhm.
filled it with smoke and you couldn't even really see the stage at all. Not the best song, far and away, but it was the best performance. They put all this furniture on the stage.
This is the year I will never forgive Europe for. Continent, let's have a talk for a second. Was it
Oh,
Romania?
the vampire!
Small but big?
I love it. I'm joking. I'm a slut for a staircase in Eurovision. Then we get in trouble because Tim's decided to watch this back.
Now I'm feeling defensive. There are stages I hate a lot more than this.
I can't keep grabbing flags off the wall.
I'm just goading Ben right now.
Part of what makes this fun is that we criticize each other's faves. This is our compromise.
Fine.
Guys,
One more
we've been on
fact.
this call for an hour and a half. This is, I think, actually my favorite.
There was the right amount of scale at the back.
I think you two might have converged on me a bit.
I felt a lot of acts struggled with it. It was a really masterful use of the stage.
Swedish EDM.
On the actual broadcast, I personally don't think I can rank this one,
I would not go that far. Cries broke American.
but just weirdos like us like to know exactly what's happening. For those of you not aware, 2017 was a little bit of a complete and utter shit show. The entire production team did quit.
Salvador Sobral wouldn't have won.
It just shouldn't have been allowed to happen.
But 2018, though.
These are the reasons I can't let you go. Oh, let's sing a song that we wrote when we're out.
What do we think? I think it was bad.
Yes.
It's warmed up to me, but it's still not as good as the others. For what it did well, aside from the ribs that were supposed to move but didn't and pull it. They set the standard for Turin on having a feature that didn't work because it was too slow.
But that feature not working,
It didn't hurt anyone.
it
really.
didn't hurt anyone.
Oh, yeah.
No.
No one was hurt by that.
It was cool to look at. I do feel
Yeah.
like there were songs that suffered for not having the LED at the back. I sort of understand why Portugal made that choice, considering the context of Salvador Sobral being Salvador Sobral.
Music is not fireworks. Music is feeling.
It was all right. It was nice to look at. It makes the stage stand out.
There's
in
too many
the-
zones in the stage, though.
Yeah.
Because
And also-
you've got the main stage, then you've got the side bit at the bottom, then you've got the bit that comes out, and then
And
that,
that was
circle.
a stage that did have the really weird bridges, and they just didn't work.
They felt too
It's just-
separate from each
yeah.
other.
because the only part ones that really properly lent into the side stage and it worked were
Lithuania.
Yeva with meeting her then husband on the stage, and Vishlatnyar when Aush, I think if I pronounced the name correctly, runs around. Those are the only ones that really work, because even with like Netta having the dancer standing aside, it just doesn't really work.
It was
Yeah.
weird.
If they'd had the lower zone with the main one also being shrunk down, and then this like the bridges being shrunk down, and just the whole thing being a lot tighter, I think it would have been one of my favorites. I do think it should have also had some form of panel coming down to allow at least projections of solid blocks of light, because the lighting on the back really works well for Portugal and France.
Yeah.
Realistically, that's it.
It hampers something like Estonia should have worked on almost every stage, but it felt like it was still too big even for Estonia, which kept it tight. And like the lighting in the back didn't help that at all. The SD Lau performance of Estonia is way better than
What was that song?
that one.
Which
La
song was that?
Forza. Because she had the
La
big dress and
Forza.
everything.
Oh,
So like
yes! How can I forget about that?
you should be able to transport that anywhere and have it like be replicated, because it's the dress, that's the focus. But just the background was and then when they tried to do wide shots, it just looked almost too barren, because all the parts of the stage were then left empty and they were so far away from each other.
There was just so much stage. There was too much stage.
I also just say though, them not having the LEDs started the trend of augmented reality, and
That
Lithuania
is
was my favorite.
actually that is actually not true, because we have been seeing weird effects at Eurovision on screen since the 90s.
But I mean, they're properly kicked off, because you had like also in more recent years you had the weird thing with the Romania 2014, which Jesus fucking Christ,
Armenia 2016.
And Belarus 2016 as well.
But I mean like proper full-on levels
Yeah.
of AR that we haven't really seen, so countries really leaned into it. And
that was Fuego, right? That really
Fuego with the flames at the side. Belarus, oh my god, I loved it so much. It was my first favorite that year. Me, it looked dreadful with the flowers. And Lithuania, I'm sorry, she was my favorite, but that was just an abomination. And if you'd had some form of screen, you really wouldn't have had any of those problems.
And then
Because if
people
there
like
was something to project onto, it would have worked. And it ruined two of my top three.
Yeah,
And I don't
really
think
do
it
hate
really
the VR.
allowed.
I hate it.
It didn't allow darkness enough, and I think that also.
But it wasn't light enough either.
Yeah, it was too much in the middle, because those beams of light should have really been brighter. But they're not in there, and I know they're like really good lighting, but they just don't work for what this is, and it really ruined the ones that required projection, like La Forza. But it also, and I realize that a lot of people do not like Russia's performance, but the lighting really fucks up the projections on that, and they just looked a lot more dreadful than it should have been. A really good performance based on what they were trying to do, but the lighting just didn't work with it. So yeah, this stage ruined my top three. So yeah, this stage.
Yeah. I get trying to do something different, but the stage should be allowed to like have either no LED or be like, you should be able to have the option at least.
It's like if they were gonna do that, the stage should have been smaller. They couldn't do both.
So I'm guessing we're probably around the end non-qualifier for this one.
I want this in no flaw.
I also agree, but I would say it's better than Istanbul.
We can put it at
fine.
top of no point.
That's no, come on. Yeah, I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Just one positive thing about it though.
Mhm.
They really had the best placement of pyro. Because oh my god, I don't know if you guys like saw the video beforehand, but when they released a technical video to Vishlatnyar of the full capacity of the pyro on stage, that video blew everyone away. It was just perfect. I don't think enough countries used enough of that pyro, but that's another issue with like the way that the contest is funded. But it allowed a great diversity of pyro, and I think that's something that was good.
All right. Final four.
Oh my gosh, we've been at this for over 2 hours and we still have 4 stages left. This is fun. I'm having fun.
Yes. So who wants to
just,
start?
Just saying, can we do Turin last?
Yes.
No.
They said, oh yeah, that's not on a high note.
Well, it might not be that high.
Higher than Turin.
Let's not end on a low note. That's
Let's not end on the lowest possible note. Well, not the lowest, but let's not end on one of the lowest possible notes we can hit.
yes. So 2019.
Speaking of low notes,
So it started a trend which I like of using the roof a lot more. I like the triangles on the roof because then 2021 did this as well with having the lights and being able to like do the country flag at the top. That was nice. The satellite stage is small. The stage in general is small, which is weird because some people got dwarfed by it.
a
But it is
lot of
small.
people did.
But it's a really small stage. Like
Which is
somehow-
honestly part of my I think part of the reason why people got dwarfed is because it has the triangle pointing out instead of being
Yeah.
straight or curved. This is like what I said about 2014.
yeah, it's weird. It has some like the little triangle things that moved up and down were cool. Only Albania really used it.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the spinny panels; those worked well as well. Being able to use both just the lights and then the LEDs. It was weirdly wide though because it had like a bits on the side that straddled it as well, and it's a stage. It's not awful, but it's also not amazing in my opinion. It's still tiny. They at least got
It's visually very interesting, but I feel like a lot of performers just had a hard time with it.
yeah. Also, like I feel like because of the way the satellite worked, because then you had to go all the way back to be able to even get to this back to the main
Mhm.
stage. Like Kaino had such a long time when they were just like having someone needing to follow them because Tom and Alexandra needed to walk back, or Tom and Fred needed to walk back to the main
All
stage
the
to
way
join
back,
Alexandra. So it was like it's so far forward because it's a triangle. So it's also another thing Turin did wrong. That like yeah, it's just the geometry of it just didn't work, but it did, but no, and it's there.
It looked cool. It was just impossible to use.
Yeah, Duncan worked okay. It could have been better.
But that was because he sat at his piano the whole time.
Yeah, like it worked good for ballads.
I wouldn't even say it really worked for Ballad because I think even with Duncan, I'm just going to say it, one of the worst winners of all time. It was still very bright for him. I think, yeah, the satellite didn't work, and I feel like the shape of the stage it warrants a straight walk out on a satellite stage at the end rather
Yeah.
than what we had. The thing that I really don't like is the back LED screen with the angularness, because I feel it only really worked for Italy. And all Italy did was writing on a black screen. Like Poland, the coloring just ruined it. But it's too dark, but also too bright. And I noticed that a lot with like Lithuania and Sweden as well. It didn't really work. Like it looks beautiful, and it looks beautiful in the opening for the final. But everything else, it kind of just wasn't that good.
Yeah, if you didn't have it like that diamondy blue color, then it was kind
It's
of
very blue.
I get it's trying to be like the Star of David-ish, and it's trying to keep Israel. It's trying to be very Israel and still be that Israeli light blue, but at the same time, it was just
It
Because
doesn't
it meant that
work.
some performances like Russia and Slovenia were just the wrong coloring. But I don't really think it would have been easy to change the coloring given how the stage looked.
yeah.
Because I feel like Russia should have been a lot more whiter, but given what they were trying to do, given like the lighting that they used and the outfit, but it's just not there.
Yeah, so
I would say non-qualifier.
I could be okay with that.
Here? Like this? Or do you want 2011 first?
I would say Dusseldorf is better than it because Dusseldorf has a lot more versatility in it. and the satellite works better.
The satellite did work. Ben, what do you think?
I'm fine with either. It's another list, like it's there.
Yeah, why don't we just put it here? So I will say about 2021 that I genuinely have no opinions at all, and that warrants me putting it someplace down low because it was just truly such a forgettable stage.
Oh no, take you dancing in town with my parade. You think you fancy, but play the game away, and you be begging, please baby, don't go, don't go, don't go. Dancing, dancing, think you fancy.
Oh,
And that's
I have-
literally all I have to say about it, is that I don't remember. Like, I just don't remember. I don't have thoughts. It was just there.
I love this stage.
They should have
So
stuck it in a
much.
TV studio.
I love this. It to me, it's immersive because like Go Away looked so good on it. There was a bit big,
Yeah.
but also like something it did very
it was
well.
really tall at the back, right?
Yeah, it was.
I guess I remember thinking that that their use of the LED at the back, that there was too much of it, and it made this sort of not ceiling, but the metaphorical ceiling of the performance really high.
I think that also was really detrimental to dancier numbers like Croatia and Poland. So, and I understand a lot of people don't like either of those performances. I personally do, but they're really lost on that stage when a lot of the other tall ones, they're like they create this way of allowing you to hone in on them, but they just didn't work. The thing that I really don't like is the transparent bit at the front.
Oh, I love that.
Because it's too central. If that satellite were much more to the side, I think it would have worked a lot better. But this, it just doesn't really work because the original concept was slightly different. So it's
Mhm.
a lot. The satellite was meant to be like down the middle, straighter. And I think the bits at the side, because it's not just like it doesn't just end. There is a little bit of a curve up. You see it a lot if you've ever watched the, what is it, like behind the Steadicam, which is just so ridiculously geeky. It's just it's YouTube videos of like the guy that holds the Steadicam, just showing where they are on stage and how the
Yeah.
transition works. It just works really, like, it's just so weird. And I think the fact that that stage is so, like, you have that bits to the side, a lot of like the wider crane work, what looks really weird. I noticed that a lot in Switzerland because you're very focused on the front of the performance. Unless you're on a steady cam, the side bits just aren't that good.
But something I think the transparent screen worked very well in Croatia's favor. It's in that very beginning where she was almost like in the middle of the crowd, and it like when it first opened up, really. So she was moving around, doing the controlling the LED, blah blah blah. I think that part actually worked very well, and I think it was cute for Dottie seeing him like walk past it and having like the little characters around it. I quite liked it. It wasn't transparent though, in my thing. Like it was very opaque when used.
Like I think the only one that I really really liked it was with the Netherlands when it came up with like the lyric. Did it come up with
Yeah.
lyrics? Am I imagining? Yeah.
Mhm.
It came
Yeah,
with
the
lyrics,
lyrics
but
were
I
there.
feel like it was too forward as well.
They basically did what they had on the main screen on the smaller screen.
Yeah.
I think what's so good about this stage is it was so versatile because like the Netherlands was very bright. All the beautiful African greens and reds and oranges were in there, or South American. It was just a similar black, orange, red color scheme. That was like why I first said African, because it's the same African flag colors. There's
Yeah.
use similar the Surinamese colors in there.
But what I
I'll
do-
do
like,
a
at
double
the
take.
at the start of that performance, it's not dark, and it's not physically dark enough.
Yeah.
But so back on it, restart this. So I think it was very versatile of a stage because it had the very beautiful ceremony colors for Jeongu, but it could also get very dark for Voila. It could also be that in the middle but still bright for Monoskin. Monoskin's performance looked stellar, and so did Voila. It was that dark, moody. She was the focus. That one backlight on her, it could get that, or be as bright and fun. Be Germany. Israel had basically that entire techno background. The only thing that was like weird was Albania, but that's just because Albania does the same staging every time, and it didn't just work for the Albanian staging. It's the same staging every year.
I think though with some of them, I don't think it was dark enough. Like it worked for Voila, but Voila, like she's still meant to be like lit up in the lightness from the floor in her circle. But in the start of like Jungkook's performance, it should be a lot darker. And I don't really think there's any when there just is that dark. Even points of Tout l'univers, like yeah, it's moody and atmospheric, and it doesn't really detract from it, but it should be darker than that. And I don't think it really.
I think the reason it wasn't darker is because there's originally supposed to be a lot more smoke, so it's supposed to be like illuminating smoke around it. But because they had that malfunction, Switzerland like last minute cut the smoke around him because they didn't want it in the final.
Yeah, I guess, and I feel like some of the super bright performances, like Poland, when it's going for that full 80, and Denmark as well, because I think the coloring it's applicable to both. When it's meant to be this bright 80s techno, whatever the hell you would call that, like that style, like 80s techno stuff, it's not as bright as it realistically should have been, and I think that was the fault of the stage. But overall, it's an okay one. I think they should have gone for a super focused TV studio that's a big, like not a small one, but like a big TV studio or a small arena, and just done something like that. And I think it would have been the opportunity to have a really nice, intimate Eurovision in the spirit of the fact, like, Eurovision's back. I understand why they probably want to go for the big, like, Eurovision's back, louder idea, but I think they had a perfect opportunity to go the other way.
So where does this go?
I would say lower end of Saved by Juries.
I would put it more towards the higher end of that, or left side. But personally, I have it as S tiers. It's my second favorite stage of all time.
I would put it under Baku.
It's about the lowest I can concede it, because it's my second below 2014 for me.
I definitely.
I would put it above Baku, I think.
I wouldn't put it below Belgrade. So I'd say either there, somewhere between there and in front of Belgrade. Those would be the 3 points that I would have it.
Here, or here.
Yeah, those were the three I would put it. So yeah, whichever you prefer.
I would put it above Baku, I think.
Yeah.
I think. But again, this is so hard because I just remember so little about it. Ben, are you ready to talk about 2022?
So if you go to my Twitter and you look back around 2022, you see the tweet about me offering to support, because this was originally when we first heard the rumors that the stage was broken, to offer to engineer the solution. Because if you don't know, I am an aerospace engineer. I am now a graduated aerospace engineer with a degree in aerospace engineering. I know how to fix these things. These people, doing what Italy did is not hard in the slightest. You could do this so easy. How the stage was, what I think mechanically they did. I'm going to put this here. You can cut this out. It's about to be a very technical rant that can probably easily be cut, but I need to say this. You could fix this.
You saying that ensures that I will not cut it.
You can fix this. They cheaped out is what they did. What I'm going to guess happened is they had a singular motor and they geared each section to spin off of one motor, which meant it could not spin that fast because you're trying to move all that mass with one thing. If they put each one on their own system and had it differently, one, it's a bit more versatile because then you could have them spinning at different rates and be cooler and move a bit differently. bit hard on the computer, but it works. And you could have a stronger motor. I think their motor crapped out on them, that it was not too powerful because it spun. It spun in the show pretty well. It worked, but it just couldn't spin fast because they bought a cheap motor for that thing to have to move all that mass. Or because I also heard the rumor of the water was the reason. They got a shitty pipe fitter who couldn't assemble some PVC together to make that little river work, which is also extremely simple. I work on planes, and I could easily design a stage better than that. EBU, hire me. Like, that should never have happened. It is such like a, you should list your points of failure for something that big, that large, know where your points of failure are. And simulation software is so, it's not cheap, but it's so readily available nowadays. You can, that company should already have a license to be able to simulate a stress, everything to make sure it's structurally stable. You can also simulate the movement really easily because I've done it. I've catted up a model of that within like a day. It's not a hard stage to fix. It's not a, it should never have happened. That being said, even if it was working, I remember seeing videos of the opposite side of people like on YouTube who sat at the back so you could kind of peek in. That LED was still god awful. Like, this stage, the only good part is that wall of lights that went down that Chanel used, because you could hide the black hole and the horrid screen. Whoever, that person should never be allowed to design a stage again, and that construction team should have, if they have engineering licenses in that country, revoked, because it was bad. That is my engineering rant over. Because if I designed something that failed like that in my job, I would get fired on the spot. It is the lowest
terrifying,
of
actually.
nul point.
That's terrifying. Remind me to never become an engineer.
I mean, like, because you have people around you who check things. Who, that whole team, it wouldn't be firing, but it would be like that whole team would get chastised.
So it's like Chat GPT lawyer levels of like institutional negligence.
Yeah. You
Okay.
check, you make sure your thing isn't going to fail. Because as an engineer, you have to design something that works. Your thing needs to be able to function. Or else, what is the point of what you're doing? It didn't even work. Like,
And I think there were a couple of performances that made it work for them. Like, I don't think that it breaking was too detrimental to, like, Lithuania maybe did
Well,
okay.
But the point, I think that with Lithuania, because I don't know if this is true or not, but there was a lot of anecdotal comments made that Lithuania was one. Monica from Lithuania was one of the singers that was crying in their first rehearsal because of all of their ideas were wrecked. Because she was originally meant to, the columns were meant to be spread out on stage, and she was originally meant to be less like interacting and dancing through them. I say that as my third place that year. That staging wasn't good. It was boring. It was basic, and it was the same with a lot of other ones. It's very boring and basic because they weren't able to do what they were wanting. And a stage that causes the singers who've spent months, potentially up to a year or even more, like working on a performance, and it's just ruined,
just wrecked weeks
It's
before
wrecked,
the show.
yeah. A lot of like people that I never see focus on ones is just how bad Ukraine's look, because on those wider shots there's a woman on the back of that screen crying, so her eyes are at the side of the stage and you can see tears. You can see nothing of that in almost any of the shots. There's a lot, because people say, oh yeah, the performance is a little bit dead, there's no real emotion in it. It's because there's a big black hole when there's meant to be Stefania on the stage. She's meant to be on the back of the screen, and it just looks dreadful. But even if it worked, like Ben said, I've also seen some pics of what the LEDs looked like. They were shocking. You can see a little bit of them in the little bits. It's the voting. You've got it turned on, and the little LEDs. They look like that, and they are shit. They're dreadful. So even if it worked, What was it going to do? Oh my god, Moldova, when they have the ramparts. Would that be the right word? Ramparts.
It's just a ramp, a door, a floor.
I feel there's a proper name for them, but yeah, whatever they were, the little bridge things when they're up and they've got they trying to do this like semi see-through LEDs, and it just looks shockingly bad. It made Moldova look even worse than it was. So just truly
This
dreadful.
was the train song?
Yes. Oh, I loved it.
Shocking. Its performance shouldn't have qualified. Don't care if that's controversial. Was terrible. But anywho, if the water feature had worked, what the hell would that have actually added?
Well,
If
it
any
was
of this stage
flowing.
worked, if any of this stage worked, what was the point of it? Because acts couldn't use water in their
Mhm.
performance. If your whole central feature, like this whole focus of it, is it's meant to be like an Italian garden which heavily uses water, what's the point? If a song called River cannot use the river that is on the stage and cannot use water, what the hell is the point of the concept of the stage? It's just shit.
And you
I
could hear
never
the
want Italy to ever win again. If they do, they are doing it in a concert hall. They are not allowed to do it in an arena. I don't fucking care if some random European isn't allowed to that was a really weird way of saying this. If some random Eurofan isn't allowed to like sit and watch the performance, I don't care. They're not being allowed to risk something so bad again. It was shocking.
the worst part of the river is you could hear it in some performances as well. You could hear the water flowing.
Oh my god. Sorry about hearing. What the CO2. The CO2, the volume of the CO2 was shocking. How you can hear this. Dreadful.
So I'm just gonna put this right here
Let's
right
just
now
preemptive,
because
preemptively. We've not even discussed the floor. Because they have the LEDs on the floor,
Mhm.
and then they stuck a thick layer of cheap acrylic that scratches really easy, that can't really be cleaned. Acrylic, you don't put acrylic on a floor. What were they thinking? What were they thinking? Genuinely, I honestly, Italy should be expelled for this. It was so awful, and I really me off when people say, "Oh my god, I don't know why everyone's hating Italy for the staging." It's like, are you actually serious? Genuinely, you don't understand why people are annoyed by this stage.
This is the biggest event in Europe on TV every year, and everything needs to work. Like, if it doesn't work, you have failed your job as a broadcaster to host the contest.
And it's not even like it's without precedent with Italy being shocking at hosting. Like, why were there not contingencies in place for Italy doing its irregular like series of bullshits? Because all three of their hostings have been like shambolic, shocking, yeah, just been dreadful. Just like Italy shouldn't be allowed to host. I don't care if they ever win again. No, but they shouldn't be allowed.
so on that note, let's talk about this year. It was
This
a
year-
stage that did not make everybody look too small. Yay!
Oh, I think this was this stage. I have a theory. This is the BBC giving a giant middle finger to RAI at this point. Because if you look at the stage, it has LED panels that first spin. Next, they can move forward and backwards, have different things on them. They translate in multiple directions. That was a giant slap in the face to RAI, being like, look how easy this is. The one I love the stage. I think one of my favorite things about it is that those panels don't just spin, they translate forward and backwards, which is actually hard to do, not just a spinning circle, which is pretty easy, because then you have to have the wires be able to stretch and spin, and multi-translational motion can get difficult every now and sometimes. So it was cool. Like something like Georgia, I thought was gorgeous, being able to have those screens right up next to her, tilted in to create its own little atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
What
That
I
was
hate
really
about
well staged.
Yes, what I hate about those panels are the gaps in them. That was no need to be that big of a gap in each of those panels. But
I don't think those gaps really detract. Like they're very noticeable in Croatia.
Yeah,
Sorry, not Croatia. Czechia, but they don't really detract from it. I only really have two criticisms of this. With the really super bright performances, like Czechia, it's
Some people
not,
got a little washed out, I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a little washed out, but it's not really, it's too much of a cold brightness. There's not enough like warm brightnesses, because even something like Greece, which was meant to be a lot warmer, the concept of showing it's still very like washed out. And the only other criticism I have this is you'll notice this a lot more with like Ireland. It's very big at the back and it's very big at the front, and then there's just this satellite, it's too close. So I feel a lot of acts were like they need to use both sections of it. I feel like if the satellite was a bit smaller and a bit further forward, and the back of the stage were a little bit shorter and a little bit further back, with a narrower satellite, it probably would have meant a lot more delegations would have felt more comfortable staying in one section of stage and not feeling like they need to like use the whole thing. But yeah, other than that, like it wasn't very good at brightness, but it was good at darkness, which it's something that a lot of stages fail at. It doesn't overshadow the performances. I would have liked more things to be able to drop down in the satellite, because a lot of countries were using the satellite more, but they're not really having something to like make it a lot more intimate. It was the right height from the audience. It was good. It was a good stage.
Yeah, really my only complaint about this stage is that it doesn't feel like it has a distinct visual identity. I think that the sort of like the greater design of it wasn't really distinctive, and that kind of distinctiveness can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing, but it just feels generic. It feels like the generic Eurovision stage these days.
I feel like they kind of purposely did it so it wasn't too like they didn't make a British stage while Ukraine was hosting, and they didn't make a Ukrainian like centered stage while it was in the UK. They kind of did a stage.
It could have been like shaped like the one from Austria or Denmark. Like those didn't have too much to do really with the country they were being hosted in, but they were still visually interesting to look at.
Yeah.
But that's really my only complaint about it.
I mean, it's
I feel like
with the BBC.
There were problems with this year of them not leaning enough into Ukraine. I feel like as someone in the UK, this was too much of a British show.
Yeah.
So at least having a stage that sort of leaned a little bit more into Ukrainianness would have been better. But that's not the stage's fault. The stage was good for what it was. And that's a fault of the rest, like the hosting itself rather than the stage.
Yeah.
I would say upper left side.
Yeah.
Upper left side. Do we want to put it like maybe like here?
I would
like
put it ahead of
Helsinki's
Finland.
my favorite, but like I feel like
sorry, I'm trying to hold it here to
yeah.
indicate being ahead of Helsinki because the website's being a little funny. Like this?
Yeah. Like I feel I would put.
Oh, this makes a cool shape. Look.
Yeah.
I do like the little wings. I thought they were cool. I wish they kind of extended out more, but the wings were
so
cute.
We made it to the end.
Finally.
It's been so I will make this statement to the viewers and I will decide later whether or not I want to keep it in the video. We got on the Zoom call at 3 p.m. my time. It is now 5:37. We have been here for 2 3/4 hours. And so I'm just going to read off these stages that we've got here. So in our top tier, we have 2009, 2006, and 2015. In the left side tier, we have 2023, 2007, 2014, and 2016. In Saved by the Jury, we have 2017, 2005, 2021, 2012, 2003, and 2008. For non-qualifiers, we have 2011, 2019, and 2010. And null point is 2018, 2004, 2013, and 2022. If you would like to do this tier maker yourself, I will drop the link in the video description. Feel free to check out that Eurovision site for all of the latest Eurovision news. We are at that Euro site on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I think technically we are still on Mastodon and TikTok. You can also check out That Eurovision Podcast at That Euro Podcast on Twitter and Instagram, and find it wherever podcasts are sold, wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Can we also just say though, Twitter might not exist when
Twitter
this is
might not
uploaded, so
exist when
so
this
you
video
maybe
goes
actually
up,
have
it's
to
true.
follow us on X,
On Threads.
because this was like 2 hours ago. They announced, well, no, 2 hours before we started this call, like Twitter was no longer going to exist.
Oh, yeah.
They're
so-
not gonna have birds anymore or something.
Yeah, so
Do we have a Threads yet?
we also
I
have
think-
Tumblr.
We do have Tumblr. We do have a Threads.
Yeah, definitely by the time this a 2-hour and 30-minute video gets edited, Twitter may not exist. So,
Definitely by the time this 2-hour and 40-minute video gets edited, Twitter may not exist. Bye, guys.
What else?
Bye
bye.
to the viewers.